Nothing could have truly prepared ARMY for the shocking confession that came out of Jungkook in a moment uncaptured by any major camera, but enough to shake the foundation of trust in the structure behind BTS. The sentence wasn't long, not convoluted, but hit straight at the core of the wound. We all know who made that decision, and it wasn't me. So who was Jungkook referring to? And even more terrifying, was the decision to remove Taehyung truly orchestrated without involving the other members? This question not only haunts fans, but also opens the door to a series of events that have long been ignored for being labeled as mere speculation. But now, after Jungkook's bold signal, every conspiracy theory once dismissed suddenly feels far too plausible. The fact that Taehyung, one of BTS's main visuals and public icons, suddenly vanished from group projects and was even absent in several important interactions with Jungkook, can no longer be dismissed as coincidence silenced by a management statement. The tension that has long lingered beneath the surface is now forming a pattern that can no longer be denied. In recent months, Taehyung's position in BTS dynamics has gradually shifted to the sidelines. Visual evidence shows the presence of Jin and Jungkook in collaborative projects, promotions, and official events, while Taehyung appears to be systematically excluded. This change is too neat to be called coincidence and too silent to not be orchestrated. When Jungkook chose to assert that he had no part in Taehyung's removal from the team dynamic, he wasn't just defending himself, he opened a deeper hole. Who has more power than the members themselves? Who can decide to cast one aside without public consideration? And most painfully, what is the real reason behind Taehyung's distancing? One of the strongest signals emerged when individual member schedules began to be announced separately, with an uneven intensity in promotion. Jungkook appeared as the center of attention, even called the company's global face. Taehyung, in contrast, nearly drowned in unclear announcements. Fans wondered, was this a form of marketing strategy, or part of a darker scenario? Furthermore, the shift in the communication pattern among members also caught attention. Jungkook, once known for being very close to Taehyung, now appeared more often alone in various rehearsals and promotional content. The lack of their interaction can no longer be seen as personal distance because Jungkook himself does not hide the fact that something is happening beyond his control. In that pressure-filled statement, it was clear he was protecting someone, or hinting at a stronger party behind the scenes. The most heartbreaking moment came when fans realized that several major projects no longer included Taehyung's name, even when the theme and atmosphere of the project should have involved all members. In one international campaign, visuals of the 6 members were fully featured, and Taehyung's absence wasn't just odd, it felt completely intentional. How could a star of V's caliber not be included in a global project he helped build from the beginning? And when ARMY began voicing their disappointment publicly, instead of receiving explanations, they were faced with a series of individual promotions that diverted attention. This strategy felt all too familiar. Create new hype, so the main issue is quickly forgotten. But this time, ARMY didn't stay silent. They knew something wasn't right, and when Jungkook finally voiced his unease, the anger and sadness exploded as one. In an unofficial interview re-uploaded by a fan account, Jungkook was even seen reluctant to answer questions about team projects. He only said, "I can't say too much, but you know, we can't always be together like before." That sentence sounded like a warning that BTS's internal situation is beyond the members' control. What is really happening between Jungkook, Taehyung, and the management? Is their internal pressure forcing them to act as if everything's fine, when the reality is quite the opposite? How can a charismatic and widely popular member like Taehyung suddenly be sidelined, despite his unwavering fanbase? Could Taehyung's popularity itself be a threat to certain agendas? Some entertainment analysts even suggest that this dynamic potentially reflects a deeper conflict of interest. If indeed there are differing views between Taehyung and the management structure regarding career direction, then this separation is not just a business decision, but a strategic move to isolate influence. And in this context, Jungkook's role becomes more complex. He is the new face, but also a witness to internal changes that severely impact personal relationships among members. What hit ARMY the hardest is not just Taehyung's absence from public context, but also the feeling of betrayal toward the narrative long sold. that BTS is one inseparable family. Now, after Jungkook's indirect confession, that narrative is starting to crack. No one can deny that something is being hidden, and all clues point to one painful truth. Taehyung was removed, and it wasn't by his own. Taehyung's silence amid this storm only reinforces public assumptions that he is being restrained or chooses silence due to pressure. He hasn't given any clarification, hasn't denied anything, and hasn't appeared in the main promotional narratives. In the context of the South Korean entertainment industry, silence often isn't a sign of consent, but a form of self-protection from bigger consequences. And ARMY, who have long understood the body language of the members, know exactly that something is deeply wrong. Now the public is faced with a major dilemma. Should they continue supporting the official narrative being presented, or start questioning the power structure that has long operated behind the scenes? Does loyalty to BTS mean accepting every decision that seems to harm the members themselves? And more importantly, is Jungkook signaling that something bigger than what has been believed is at play? In this highly complex situation, the role of the public becomes crucial. Because if it's true that Taehyung was removed without a voice, then it's the voice of the public that can reverse the situation. Jungkook has taken the first step. With incredible courage, he chose not to remain silent. The question now is no longer whether Taehyung was removed, but why, and who wanted him out of the main dynamic. ARMY, long known as a global force capable of shaking the industry, now stands at a turning point. Will they demand transparency, or accept that their idols are being used as tools in a much bigger game? And are they ready to face the reality that the very system they trusted might be hurting the member they love most? Does this mean the end of the togetherness long celebrated? Or is this the beginning of a resistance that will open many eyes to the harsh reality behind the entertainment industry? Jungkook has spoken. Now it's the public's turn to ask deeper questions. If in the previous part the public was shaken by Jungkook's gesture that seemed to confirm the abnormality in BTS's internal dynamic, then the big question that must now be asked by everyone who calls themselves ARMY is, to what extent do we truly understand the reality behind the stage? Are all things that appear coincidental just a mask for a system that has been systematically and strategically set up? Or on the contrary, are we victims of media narratives deliberately crafted to create chaos and divert attention from the core issue? We are not talking about ordinary rumors. We are entering an informational realm filled with psychological tension, conflicts of interest, and potential media manipulation. The fact that most of the information about the rift between Jungkook and Taehyung and the suspicion of Taehyung's removal by powerful forces in the company comes from social media like TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter should serve as an early warning for us not to believe them outright without thorough verification. But on the other hand, is it possible that these platforms are where the most authentic truths eventually emerge when official institutions choose to remain silent? Why is there no open clarification from those who control BTS's public narrative? Why are the statements coming only from the members, especially Jungkook, in pressured and ambiguous sentences? Shouldn't an issue this big be directly and openly addressed if there is truly nothing to hide? Or is the silence of those with authority an indirect admission that something is being deliberately covered up? For many fans, the relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook is more than just a simple friendship. The two have become symbols of closeness, trust, and deep brotherhood in public. But in the past year, that relationship has seemed distant. No more warm interactions, no more affectionate nicknames, and most striking, they are never seen together in any project. If this is not a strategy, then what is? And if this isn't an intentional separation, why does it appear so consistent and repetitive? Yet, an intelligent public must not rely solely on emotion. We must place ourselves in a skeptical and objective stance. Could this narrative just be an illusion magnified by algorithms and social media currents? Shouldn't we admit that in this digital era, perception can be shaped very easily by video snippets, interview fragments, or even emotionally edited narratives? Therefore, let us reflect more deeply. Is it true that Taehyung was removed by higher powers within the company structure? Or did he choose to withdraw for personal reasons not yet ready for public disclosure? Is Jungkook truly fighting for justice for his friend? Or is he himself trapped in a strategic game far bigger than anything he ever imagined? In this context, it is undeniable that the South Korean entertainment system often hides many layers of power behind idol faces. Artists are not the ultimate holders of their careers. Contracts, management policies, and business strategies often override individual voices. Is what happened to Taehyung a form of that bitter reality? Have we only seen fragments of a more complex and painful internal conflict? Still, it's important to emphasize that all circulating information, including Jungkook's signals, cannot yet be confirmed as absolute truth. Many of the videos and tweets being shared come from fan accounts, fan-based media, and unofficial sources that cannot be independently verified. In such a position, our role as readers is to be sharp, critical, and not easily provoked. The question is, are we truly seeking truth? Or are we seeking sensations that reinforce our own emotional beliefs? A reflective attitude becomes crucial in responding to this narrative crisis. Because if we misread the situation, we become part of the ecosystem, adding to the psychological burden of the BTS members themselves. What if, instead of supporting them, we're actually spreading new pressure that hinders an internal process not yet ready to be made public? What if the theories we build only hurt those who are silently struggling? Yet on the other hand, silencing public discourse is not the answer. Transparency and openness are part of healthy social control. When the public questions Taehyung's presence in BTS dynamics, when they question Jungkook's role and the management, it's a form of collective responsibility to maintain balance in an industry that is often unfair. Therefore, this discussion must continue, but with a cool head, not just based on fleeting emotion. Is it true that Jungkook and Taehyung's relationship has been destroyed by external interference? Or is this separation part of a personal journey not understandable by the wider public? Who truly benefits from their separation? And most importantly, who is most harmed? For fans who have followed BTS's journey for years, this is a painful blow. They were raised on a narrative of unity, solidarity, and togetherness. But now, that narrative is being tested by confusing silence. Should they still believe in the ideal image of the past, or start accepting that reality has changed and not all members are in the same position? With all these questions, it's important to realize that the truth won't come in a single clarification. The truth in this case is scattered fragments, only readable with care, skepticism, and reflection. So, we invite readers and viewers not to drown in unverified anger or sadness. Instead, let us examine each piece of information objectively, question the sources, and seek alternative narratives that are more neutral. That TikTok video implying Jungkook's reluctance to support Jin an accurate representation of actual dynamics? Or is the video just edited to create a desired impression? Do the tweets about Taehyung's disappearance from the group truly reflect internal decisions? Or are they narratives shaped by algorithms reinforcing our bias? We cannot give a definitive answer, because in the end, every reader must be their own analyst, critical of information, reflective of emotion, and open to the possibility that the truth does not always align with our hopes. If it's true that there's a greater power removing Taehyung, then the courage to question and demand transparency is the best form of resistance. But if this all turns out to be a series of misunderstandings amplified by media, then caution is the wisest form of love. Now, we leave it all to you. Do you believe this separation was orchestrated? Or is it a bitter truth long hidden from the public? Are you ready to question every narrative, even if it means dismantling the trust you've long held? Or will you choose silence and wait for an answer that may never come? These questions cannot be answered quickly. But one thing is certain: truth will never be found by those who stop asking.